The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at wrestlingwithjohners.com. Hello, we are back with another live episode of Wrestling with Johners, episode 214. Can you believe it? And we're only 1 week away from our 3-year anniversary show, so that's going to be absolutely fantastic. Today, I'm joined by none other than a man with over 300,000 social media followers. Can you believe it? Twitter's favourite wrestler, MEMES. MEMES, how are you doing? Good evening, and thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm doing well. Welcome to my delightful bedroom. It's quite untidy now, actually, but you're in the relatively tidy zone, so you can't see the rest of it, so that's fine.
No, that's awesome. But look forward to talking to you, taking a deep dive into your wrestling career and all of your social activities and how it all started way back when. But I think the last time I saw you and the last time I spoke to you was backstage at Wrestle Carnival's last show. It was Pure, wasn't it? Back last month. Seems like such a long time ago, but it was only a few weeks ago. And you were part of the Strongman Gauntlet match, of course. Now, we won't talk about the result, of course. But
I don't know who won. It was
you'll have to check that out on VOD to find out who did. But it was a hell of an occasion, and like I say, your character is well suited to that sort of environment, the carnival environment. But Wrestle Carnival, like I say, another debut show for you, another new group that you've kind of started with recently. So like I say, a fun match and a great occasion as well.
Yeah, no, Wrestle Carnival is I said to pull the curtain back, but there have been this year. I've been kind of like there's two main promotions that I haven't appeared at, and I've been like I really want to appear at them. One of them was Wrestle Carnival. One of them I'm still working on, but I'm hoping it's further up north. I tend to be I think the highest I've gone is Birmingham so far in terms of wrestling, but there's a promotion up north who you could probably make some educated guesses about who I'm aiming for, but. Yeah, the Wrestle Carnival was one of the two, and I was incredibly happy to be a part of that. And we don't need to talk about the result, but yeah, it was good to get in the ring with Big Guns Joe for the first time ever as well, and do a little bit with him. And it's just a really great experience, and I am looking forward to hopefully going back to Wrestle Carnival and getting to throw some people around a bit more.
Excellent. It's got to happen. Would love to see you back there at Wrestle Carnival. But as I mentioned in the introduction memes, you have over 300,000 social media followers, which is fantastic. So congratulations. But you kind of worked on that over a number of years. And what a lot of people may not know is that it all started from your kind of social media activities probably about 9 years ago, 2012, I think, with Wrestling MEMES. Tell us about the kind of the spark behind the Wrestling MEMES, the inspiration behind it, and how it all got started.
So it's actually predated by a different Facebook page that I started with a friend at university because our favorite commentator was Booker T. So we started playing a drinking game, which we'd invented called the Booker T drinking game. And it was effectively, before you go out, you put on any Booker T match, you have a drink every time Booker T says one of the 60 catchphrases he had when he was doing commentary. So you'd get rather tipsy, and then you'd head out. And we were playing this game a lot, probably too much. And suddenly went, right, let's make a Facebook page about this, because that'd be funny. And it really took off. Like we had gained about 1,000 followers, I think, in less than a month. And we're like, oh, okay, this is cool. And we were just posting Booker T jokes basically, and like posting the rules of the game and being like, oh my goodness, every time he did something, all those kind of things. And then that kind of, uni finishes, you're kind of doing whatever, you're doing your other things. It's there, it's in the background, but you're not doing much of it. It kind of introduced me to what a meme was, because also if you think about 2012 or 2011 at this point, a meme isn't a hugely prevalent thing. It exists, but it's not it's not in the cultural lexicon.
If you said to somebody back in 2011, "Here's my latest meme," people would look at you rather strangely.
Yeah, they'd be confused. They might know of a type of meme. You know, there's like Numa Numa was a meme, and that's well before. But anyway, I'd basically been looking at what memes were, and I was just like, "Is there any wrestling memes?" Googled it, and nothing appeared, nothing at all. And I was like, "Oh, all right, I can do this." And I created a Facebook page called Wrestling Memes. And there was literally, when I created it, there was no other Facebook page called Wrestling Memes on Facebook. It didn't exist. There was nothing. So I started posting original, like there was, you know, some pre-existing things where people had made jokes and stuff, but I started posting original content and sharing that through the Booker T page, actually. And then the Wrestling Memes page started building and building to the point where it just started growing every week, and then suddenly, you know, more pages crop up and things like that. But I managed to stay at the head of the pack, I'll put it that way, by making jokes. When I look at them now, I'm like, these are terrible jokes. Why was anyone liking these? But yeah, no, I created memes. I created stuff about wrestling, and at the start, I didn't really want anyone to know who I was either. Like, I kept it very quiet, kind of. And it built up. The following built up very, very quickly. To today, now it's about 230,000 people, I think, on Facebook. I think it's a little more than that now, actually. But yeah, it's just something that kind of progressively grew to the point where I suddenly realized, oh, this is a tool I can use. And I started doing. I briefly did a podcast, which my first guest was JBL, and it got about 10,000 listeners. And I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
And then
tell us about that, because I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I was also working for JBL at the time, randomly. So
that's just something that happens, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember the Layfield report. It existed for a few years, and I knew someone called Arda Cal, who now he's a very successful presenter in the US and Canada, and he was in WWE for a short time as well. Actually,
I remember him.
Yeah, Kyle Edwards. Yeah. But he basically got me introduced to JBL, and I was one of about 20 people who were writing for free but entering a contest every month, effectively. So if you were at the top 3 read stories, you'd get, I think it was like $500, $250, $100. So I would write the articles, put them on Wrestling Memes, and then I'd be getting a check from JBL every month. But then I'd be looking at this check going, this is a check by JBL, his gimmick is that he's a millionaire. I don't want to cash this. And then I saw my bank balance and went, you know, I do want to cash this, actually. But yeah, I was doing some stuff for him. I was doing, this led to appearing on various podcasts as a guest, such as this one. I appeared quite a few times on Wrestle Talk TV, which kind of, you know, got my introduction to meeting people in BritWres, because I was helping out there every couple of weeks when it was this was when it was on Challenge TV, of course, rather than the YouTube show it is now.
I remember it very well. Yeah,
and it's doing great. And yeah, it's just I suddenly found myself very casually falling into wrestling.
Yeah. So, I mean, going back to the social pages and the Wrestling Memes, was there one post or one meme in particular that really skyrocketed the group or the page or the number of followers, or was it just over a period of time? Did it just organically build?
It was always growing, and it was always going up. But I remember the time it really, really spiked. There was a period. And this was when I also realized that WWE were paying attention, where there was a period, a few times, where WWE's social media account wrote a few stories about, the fun things, and they included my memes in some of them. So some of my memes were posted on WWE.com.
Wow.
And they would retweet the WWE Universe account was retweeting my stuff, which was obviously shooting the followers up. And then there was also things like the time it really shot up was Mick Foley message or shared the thing, was just like, I really love, and then tagged at Wrestling Memes. And I was like, oh my god, Mick Foley loves Wrestling Memes. And and then he followed me on Twitter, and I sent him a message. I was like, oh, thank you. And he was like, oh, I love your stuff. And then he was basically egging me on to make Mick Foley memes for him. So as a result, he would share them, and that would again boost the following and put you kind of in front of the right eyes. Yeah, I was saying that the WWE were aware of me. I remember a time I did a meme, and this was just after the Undertaker's streak had ended, and Paul Heyman was doing the line. My client Brock Lesnar ended the Undertaker's undefeated streak of wrestling. You know, the big long line he did.
Yeah.
And I did a meme that was knock knock, who's there? Mike who? Mike like Brock Lesnar, and you know it's a all right. maybe people laugh. And I tagged Paul Heyman in it, and he favorited it. I was like, oh nice. Raw comes on that night, and I'm watching Raw at like 2 a.m. or something, and Paul Heyman comes out. He picks up the mic and goes, knock knock. I was like, what? And he did it live, word for word. I was like, oh my god, Paul Heyman just stole the joke and put it on Raw. And yeah, there's been so many of these random, hilarious things that have happened as a result of this. Like, I got a couple of years, well, about 3 weeks before I started training, in front of an audience of about 500 people at the garage in London. I got put on trial by Matt Hardy. Because it was around the time and you can find that video on Wrestle Memes somewhere if you scroll down far enough, but he put me on trial because I'd been making a lot of memes about him, and he was basically saying, should I be deleted or not? And yeah, I had a very nervous public trial held by Broken Matt Hardy, which was a great thing. I was saying actually that recently that if I had been a wrestler at that point, I definitely would have completely changed my gimmick and just become Brother Mimo instead, and been like completely broken. And it would have been great. But sadly, it was a little while before I debuted. But yeah, I've had lots and lots of these like crazy incidences where I've been able to like randomly influence like WWE or something like that, and as a result, I've met wrestlers and become friends with wrestlers, and it's just kind of suddenly I'm here being a wrestler, and it's all just been not a perfect storm, some sort of a chaotic storm though.
That's phenomenal. The Paul Heyman story is just absolutely wow. But I want to encourage anybody that's watching at home, if you want to send memes, any questions, or if you have any comments for the show, please drop them in. We'll be happy to read them out live on air. But before we go any further, memes, I've got to have a quick shout out to our sponsors, 1310 Apparel. They not only sponsor this very podcast, Wrestling with Johners, but they sponsor the Johners Podcasting Network, which we are a proud member of. And if you go onto their Wrestle Merch Central store, which I'll be giving you the details for very, very soon, you can see their exclusive hardcore line there, including their exclusive Lucha range and their more traditional Four Corners and 1310 apparel. And of course, they sponsor some various very famous UK wrestlers such as Heidi Katrina and Northwest Strong's Chris Ridgway, of course. And you can take advantage of a 10% deal that we have with 1310 Apparel. Just go to their Wrestle Merch Central global store at 1310.merch.global, or click on the sponsors link in the description to this podcast and enter 1310 WMC as the discount code at checkout. But Memes is back to us. And I have to ask, do you have a favorite post or a favorite meme of yours from over the years?
I don't know if I have a favorite. The one I remember, the one that got me the most traction I've ever had was during the World Cup of I want to say 2016 World Cup. Is that right?
I think it might be one 2018.
2014. Sorry, 2014.
Oh,
it would be.
Right, there we go. That would be right.
So I did a tweet about I can't remember which way the result went now, but I think Brazil battered Germany like 6-1 or 7-1 or something, or it was the other way around.
Right.
Yeah, and it was like a huge like big team got absolutely dominated. And I did a wrestling based meme about it, and within the space of about 30 seconds, I had a retweet from WWE, and I'd had a retweet from ESPN. And I've never seen my phone like light up and vibrate and go off so much as a result. It got like tens of thousands of retweets. And then suddenly I look and I realize that I am trending worldwide as a result of this one tweet. And I was like, well, I'm trending worldwide now. So yeah, that's probably the one that got me the most like awareness. I actually managed to trend on the basis of a joke about football.
Oh, that's amazing. I must admit, going through your social pages at the moment, I've really enjoyed and popped quite a few times every time I come across the hamster and Adam Cole post. I'm guessing that's one that you've created, but I can't take my eyes off of the eyes from the hamster, looking down at the eyes of Adam Cole and thinking, wow, there's something strange going on here.
No, with that one, that was literally just a screen record of Adam Cole doing a live thing, and he was doing like where you invite a person into the room, and someone was holding up a hamster. So he's just, and I just found it so funny. I pressed screen record, like everyone has to see this. So I can't take much credit for that one, sadly. I did post it though, but yeah, no, that was just a thing that happened.
Oh, that's incredible. That really is incredible. But I wouldn't have known unless you'd said. But with all your social media activity and social media success, has it given you kind of any advantages now that you're actually in the wrestling business yourself?
So yes and no. Yes, in the sense that it probably opens some doors that wouldn't have been opened early on. So like people, I go, oh, I've got this and I've got these followers and this and that. But if I turn up to a show and I stink the place out, then I won't get booked again. So I kind of had to be able to back up what I'm doing. And I think as a result, I was talking to Clementine about this actually recently. That I get huge imposter syndrome when it comes to wrestling, because like these promotions will book me, and if I haven't worked with them before, I'm behind the curtain and I'm like, God, this is the time no one's going to know me, and I'm going to go out to complete silence, and they're going to hate it, and it's going to be terrible. And then it's always fine when I go out and I just start performing. But yeah, it's good in that sense, but it's also had a bit of a flip side. Where, and this is kind of a bit of a basis for the heel side of me, where I've kind of taken a real life aspect of this. But when I first started, there were a lot of, I mean, I won't name names, but there were a lot of people who were kind of, and I found out about it rather than them saying it to me, but there were people who were kind of seemingly jealous, I think, and it's a really weird thing to be jealous, but of like me having some followers and then becoming a wrestler, because like the reality is it's someone going, my village hall is better than your village hall. That's where we are. But there were some people who were basically thinking that, oh, here's a guy who's just turned up, he's got a big following, and so he's going to get opportunities that he doesn't deserve. And maybe they
were thinking you hadn't paid your dues, sort of thing.
Yeah, kind of. But it was never. So this was the thing I found when it was the higher end of the bigger names in BritWres. They were always very like, oh, hey mate, how's it going? Oh, how's training? It was the guys who maybe aren't they're doing their local stuff, but maybe they aren't successful, and as a result they're kind of get a bit of jealousy, which is a bit strange, because like if anyone who knows me is, if I think you're really good, I tend to shout to the world how good you are or how good someone else is. Like the whole point of how I do my things on social media is to try and like raise awareness of the promotions that are existing or the wrestlers like existing. Like right now, someone who is starting to really turn some heads is Tommy Kyle, and he's been a fantastic wrestler for years. And I've trained with him literally since day one, which is why he was the one who popped into my brain. But like someone like him, I'll always make sure if he does something cool, I'll be like, right, I need to retweet this and show the world that this is a really cool thing. Like he did a move recently that it was he did a 619 and then went round and caught them and gave him a German, and it looked really good. And he's given it a name that I've forgotten the name of, but I just like that, something like that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Let's retweet that and share that. Like I always want to make sure that the people who deserve it are getting a spotlight, and that's what I try and do for them. Sometimes to my own detriment, I think. But yeah, like it was very strange that the jealousy that I encountered, maybe not strange, but I encountered a fair bit of jealousy at the start, and you get it every now and then, and it's usually from someone who's just probably trying to find a reason why they're not succeeding and blaming someone else. I think like myself and everybody else, like we all train incredibly hard, and there's plenty of people who deserve a spotlight who don't have it, and maybe I am taking it up a little bit, but I will always try and back up what I do in the ring, and as well, you've seen me a couple of times. I think so far so good.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. I want to kind of take a deep dive into your wrestling fandom now. So, well, when did pro wrestling first come into your life? How did you first encounter professional wrestling, and how did it affect you at that, I'm guessing, fairly young age?
So I'm not exactly sure. So I have a few vague memories of when wrestling started. One memory is being at my cousin's, I think, and seeing, I think it was the episode of Raw where the Big Show gets dragged on the coffin.
Right.
And I wasn't really paying huge attention to that at the time. But like, oh, that's weird, but didn't really get hugely into it.
That was the Big Boss Man angle, I think, wasn't
the
it?
Big Boss Man. Yeah,
Yeah.
where he's been driven away and he's holding onto the coffin going through the graveyard. And I vaguely remember that happening. But I wasn't like huge, like, oh my God, what is this? I've got to watch it. The time I remember being like, oh my God, what is this? I've got to watch it, was being at a friend's house. And this is when you could only get things through Sky as well. So I didn't have Sky, my friend had Sky. And I went to his house and he put on Sunday Night Heat. And I can't remember who he was wrestling, but it was S.A. Rios versus somebody. Right. And S.A. Rios did the Asai moonsault to the outside. And I was like, what's that? And as a result, then I started watching randomly Sunday Night Heat at his house. So I really like Loki, for example, because he ended up being on there a bunch and like a load of like really the lower end guys. And I couldn't really watch it though. But we got SmackDown 2 on PS1, and I would play that non-stop, endlessly, and I would play it all the time. And then the other, when like things like VHS was, videos were still a thing. We went to a shop and got, I was like allowed to get a video, and there were a load of WWE videos. And because I've been playing SmackDown 2, I've been like, oh, my favorite is Viscera. Because he was big and crazy looking. So I was looking for all these videos trying to find a match with Viscera in. And obviously he wasn't like a main guy, so he wasn't on many of the shows. But I found SummerSlam, I want to say 97, and Viscera was in a tag team turmoil match in that. And the main event was Kurt Angle, Triple H, and I think it's Kurt Angle. No, it was Triple H, Stone Cold, and The Rock. And the special referee was Jesse Ventura. I
remember.
I watched that video endless times until we finally one day got Sky. And the second we got Sky, I was like, right, I'm watching Raw every week. And until recently, I'd basically watched every episode of Raw and SmackDown for about the last 20 or so years. I always say that it's quite funny that when I started watching wrestling properly was just before the invasion started. And I had no idea what WCW was. Like I was not clued in. So when I'm watching these WWE guys and suddenly there's an invading force of new wrestlers, I thought it was the best thing ever. I love the invasion. I did not know that Sting was missing. I didn't know Goldberg was missing. I didn't know there was no Scott Steiner. I was just like, right, cool. Who better than Canyon? I loved them all. And as a result, I thought the invasion was an amazing storyline. So there's a little fun fact. Still one of my favorite things in wrestling, even though most people hate it.
No. So I enjoyed the angle. I thought it could have been so much more, of course. And like I say, the big players were out of the picture. But if you were none the wiser, then it was a pretty cool angle. And I thought they did the best with what they had. But it was short-lived, wasn't it? It was very short-lived. Going from being a wrestling fan and like I say, all the stuff you've done with wrestling memes, how did that eventually transition into you wanting to become a wrestler yourself?
Well, we're going back to how it started. When I started the Booker T drinking game page because I was drinking. I started wrestling because I got drunk. So I had made friends with the guys at UBW. Right. I've been introduced to them through a mutual friend, and we'd been, just spending time together and stuff. I'd gone to a couple of shows and done bits and pieces like that, and just like just kind of watch really. And Paul Ash had been like, "Oh, you should train." I was like, "Oh, I don't know, mate." And I wasn't sure. Then I got very.
Saw your size and thought this guy, could.
Yeah, I had size, I had personality, I had everything you'd kind of hope for. And and then yeah, we went out. I got drunk, and I took. So we had two trainers originally. It was Paul Ash, who was goes back to the New Breed days, and his tag team partner of the New Breed, which was Cruz. And Cruz asked if he could chop me, and I went, yeah, okay. And he's very well known for his big chops at the time. And he gives me the big chop, and I ended up bumping it on a living room carpet. And I was like, oh, and he was like, oh, you should come to training. I was like, yeah, that wasn't too bad. Let's go to training. And I woke up the next day and went, oh God, I agreed to go to training. So I turned up very nervous. So luckily, obviously, I knew all the people that were there, which was a bonus. I basically took my first, and this was when it was mats, and we didn't have a ring originally, so we were in an MMA gym in Hitchin. So we were basically taking bumps on mats and big padded things. And I basically practiced my back bump, my flip bump, all those kind of things, and it was all fine. And I was like, oh, that was quite good. All right, see you next week. And it just progressed and progressed. And I think I trained for about, I want to say 9 months before my debut, which was with Major Lee Rotten.
So regarding your training then, because a lot of people tell their stories of how they take their first, when they hit the ropes for the first time, or when they take their first back bump and they kind of have second thoughts. But you kind of took to it quite well and adapted quite well, and you're off to the races from there.
Yeah, no, it was kind of, once I'd realized that I was like, oh, I can handle, like, it's whether you can handle the initial bumps and stuff. When I realized, oh, I can handle this, I know all the people, so why aren't I giving this a go? So I did. And like originally, I remember I was always saying to Paul, I was like, well, I'll have one match and then we'll see what happens after that, but I'll just have the one match. And then once I'd had the one match, I was like, all right, when's the second match? And then when's the third match? And oh, well, I'm not on the show this week, what's going on? You know, and it was, and now I think I probably had I've had well over 100 matches now easily. And just building and improving every time, and getting to wrestle a variety of people that you never think you'd wrestle, and being in locker rooms with people where you're like, I watched you on the wrestling channel, what's going on here? And like things like that. It's like it's been a wild ride so far.
It certainly has. Tell us about your debut then, because I understand it just wasn't one debut match. If I'm not mistaken, I think you had 2 matches on your debut show. So tell us about that. And obviously already you'd done a lot of social media. You'd been wrestling memes for probably 4 or 5 years before you had your debut. What sort of reaction did you get when you came through the curtain the first time? And tell us about that debut show of yours.
So that was at the Weatherly Centre in Biggleswade, which is kind of the main venue for UBW. Like all the big shows tend to happen there. We've got a really good dedicated fan base there, so they know all the storylines and all that kind of stuff. That was where I debuted. I had so much adrenaline when I came through. I tripped up the stairs. I got a big cheer though, which I was happy about. And I'd noticed that because it's UBW tends to be a family audience, but I noticed that when I debuted, because I've been hyping it through promos and stuff that I'd filmed, at the back there was quite a few people in like Progress t-shirts and stuff like that, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I brought them here. And I was like, oh, maybe I did. And so the first match was with Major Lee Rotten, and again, this is all I pitched this to Paul because of my love of storytelling in wrestling, and like I wanted to tell a good story that would kind of let people know what's going on, kind of thing. So my first match was with Major Lee Rotten, and we live streamed it. And in retrospect, it's terrifying to think about this, but I live streamed my debut to about 20,000 people who watched. So that was quite terrifying. But I debuted, against Major Lee Rotten, and it went okay. I forgot a few bits. This happened, that happened, but it all went fine. I picked up the win, and then a group of 4 people who were in a Survivor Series match later in the night, they come out and say, oh, I hope you enjoyed your 15 minutes of fame, but it's over. And they all attack me and beat me up. And this is quite a funny bit. So I get beaten up and I get taken to the back. At that point, my family go, oh, he got attacked. Oh, well, I really enjoyed that. And they left. And my dad stayed, luckily, at least. But yeah, I had probably about 10 members of my family there who left the second I'd been carried to the back, unconscious, being like, oh, well, nothing else will happen. So then, obviously, later in the night is the 8-man tag. One of the guys in the tag gets taken out before the match, so it's 4-on-3. It runs your normal Survivor Series match. It gets down to 2-on-1. He looks like he's doomed. My music hits. I come out holding my head. We do the hot tag. We boom, boom, boom. We win the match. So yeah, my dad was there to see it at least, but the rest of my family sodded off.
They've gone down the pub.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it was a really. I was very happy that I'd been given the trust to do something like that for a debut, because that's a big debut for anyone, and it went well. It got the reactions. And
involved in a storyline on your debut show as well. That's pretty special. I think that's something that UBW kind of pride themselves on, is giving their characters, giving their performers a storyline, an angle, something to captivate the audience besides what's going on inside the ring.
Yeah, no. Paul, who runs UBW, is very, very big on storytelling and making sure everything matters, and making sure that there are angles running. And that has built since I came in and the others came in. Like, we started building storylines, and now I do a lot of the editing as well. So I always say, let me make a feud package for this and stuff, and like up the production. We've had people who work in production side of things up the way like the entranceway looks, and we've been able to, like, as a team, build a very unique and different prospect. And there aren't a huge amount, I would say, of real storytelling promotions in the UK. There's a lot of promotions that will, there might be a couple of show things, but it's kind of based around, this big wrestler's going to wrestle this big wrestler. But the way I like to do it is, I'd really like to wrestle this wrestler, but I'd like a reason why I'm wrestling that wrestler. And that's what UBW, the majority of the time, will let me do. And let a lot of other people do. So as a result, it comes out as over the last few years, they've built a very hardcore, well, not hardcore, but a dedicated fan base. Like, the kids don't want to miss the next show because they want to see, what happened to Smashing Mike, what happened to Memes, what happened to Spike Valentine, whoever it is. And
they're invested in the story, aren't they?
They're invested in the story. There's a lot of characters. Like, UBW again is very character heavy. And I think that's to its benefit. I think wrestling in general is kind of going back from everyone being a black trunks wrestler. If you're a black trunks wrestler, you need to be the best black trunks wrestler. Whereas if you're a plumber, you're probably the only plumber. That's my logic of it. So everyone in UBW has very, very big characters. They all have a reason to be there, and everything kind of has its place, which I very luckily fell into an incredible promotion for where I trained and where I kind of got my start.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about Mr. Charles Crowley, a character, a wrestler that you know very well, that I've seen perform several times, doing some great things on the UK indie scene. But he was there for your debut match as well, in a slightly different capacity to what we might know him as today.
Yeah, he was the ring announcer at the time. He started training a few months after me. So we've had a very back and forth relationship since he debuted. Like, early on, like now, obviously he's kind of one of the hot stars of BritWres, but early on I was like, this guy's incredible and everyone needs to see him. So I was sharing his promos and hopefully in theory, getting him new followers and stuff like that. And it seemed to help him out. And I was talking to him one day and said, we should be a tag team, because we were working on different bits and pieces, and he didn't really know what he was doing hugely. He'd done a couple of bits, I'd done a couple of bits. I said, we should try being a tag team. And he went, okay. And I pitched it to Paul Ash, and he was like, yeah, maybe. And I was like, okay, we're going to go film a promo. And we went to a local traveling carnival, and basically filmed a thing about comparing ourselves to the Big Show and Billy Gunn, saying we were going to be the biggest team since the Shoguns. And we filmed it, I think, the Carnival. It was a really fun promo. It went really well. It was entertaining. Sent it to Paul, and he was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. This is your Mona Lisa. And we were like, okay, good. And he put us in he was like, right, and are you ready to wrestle as a tag team on the next show? And we were like, Yeah, he's like, okay, you're wrestling for the tag titles. We're like, oh. So we debuted against CJ Carter and Johnny Knox at the time. CJ Carter was actually filling in for Cruz, who was unavailable for that show. I think he pulled out at the last minute for a reason. I can't quite remember why. But and the crowd really got behind us. We had really good chemistry straight away. And we didn't win the titles that time, but we had a rematch the following show and won the belts. So we 2 matches in, we were the UBW tag team champions, which was great, and we held them for quite a while. It's been a very story driven thing between me and Crowley. So we won the belts. The night we lost the belts, I won the Floor is Lava, which is our rumble. And that made me the #1 contender for the title at WrestleMania, which we can get onto that as well. But that was an online event that I said, oh, wouldn't it be great if we did this as a real event? And now it's suddenly become the calendar event of UBW's kind of year. And I'm like, haha. So we're entering, well, next year would be WrestleMania 4 now. But yeah, so I then won the UBW title. And on the same night, Crowley won the Young Lions title. So we suddenly we were both. There's a really nice picture of us both with the belts. And then it built and built and built to the point where the GM at the time, who was called Robbie Boy, put me and Crowley in a match against each other with both our belts on the line. And then Crowley beats me clean, and it looks like I'm going to do something. I'm like, no, raise his hand, good job. And he cuts a really impassioned promo, as Crowley always does. And then he spears me out of my boots and gives me a one-man concerto. So suddenly we were no more. Well, at least in UBW we were no more.
A hell of a story, though, Memes. I mean,
yeah.
you know, from that very beginning when you first started tagging with Crowley, and then, like I say, 2 matches in as a tag team as Show Memes, you win the titles. You held the titles for a few months, and then, like I say, you had you were the British heavyweight champion, and then he turned his back on you. You had a couple of great matches with Crowley. I think it culminated in a TLC match towards the end of that year to kind of crown off UBW's calendar. But a great story from beginning to end. And like you say, UBW, they invest in their character wrestlers, they invest in their storylines. And this is probably one of the biggest and best storylines UBW has ever done.
We don't like. I've said this to Crowley. Like, I think that is the best. I mean, as far as I know, that's the best story. That's the most engaged people have ever been in the storyline for UBW. Like, when Crowley turned on me, there were children crying in the audience. They were so upset. Like, one of them had to be brought backstage so I could be like, oh no, I just got a bit of a headache, but I'll get him back. Should I get him back, kind of thing. And it really, really got a lot of attention. And what I found with Crowley is, I tagging with him or wrestling against him, we have really good chemistry. We both love to do storytelling, so our ideas often will align very well, and we work very easily together. So as a result, we every time we've wrestled, I've been like so happy with what we've done. Like the first match we had was voted the match of the year for UBW, and then the TLC match is still up there as one of the best matches I've ever had. Like, it was absolutely chaotic car crash. I really hurt my hip bone. I had to have about 4 people stop me before I got put through a table. It was also when his stable at the time debuted. So there's a really, really good shot of me having been powerbombed off a ladder through a table, Crowley on top of the ladder with the belt, and like his cronies around him all celebrating. And it's just this amazing shot.
What a great visual.
But yeah, and we've kind of, I think we are still technically the current tag team champions at Wrestling 4 in Birmingham. He actually wasn't there when we won the belts, but he was invisible, and his ghost helped me win, and they were taking bumps for
I love the tag belts for Wrestling 4 as well. Probably the best.
Yes.
Probably the best tag belts in UK wrestling, I have to say.
Yeah, well, that was the tag team, pun intended, had some toy plastic belts and declared themselves the champions. And we were brought in originally to stop them, take the toy belts off them, and then we won them, and then also declared them real. So now and then I think they've been officially made a real championship now, even though they're toy belts. But yeah, I think Crowley and I have been the reigning Wrestling 4 tag team champions for about 2 years at this point.
Oh.
We've never defended them, but hopefully, I really enjoyed the Wrestling 4 show, so I'm hoping they come back next year and we can.
It's got to happen.
do a
Those
little
shows
bit
are
more of
absolutely
that.
fantastic. But I mean, talking about UBW in general, because you also have some creative input. You mentioned earlier about how it's a real collaborative effort behind the scenes, where kind of all the people that have a certain skill kind of helps to produce the show and put it together. But you also have a hand in. You mentioned Wrestle, you mentioned The Floor is Lava. They were your brainchild, weren't they? They were your ideas.
Yeah, well, so I will always go. I will message Paul Ash at least 5 times a day with terrible ideas. Every time something pops into my head, I'm like, "We've got to do this." And then 90% of the time, he's like, "What are you talking about? Why would we do that?" And then 10% of the time, he's like, "That's the best thing ever. I'll see what we can do." And it's not. It's like the thing that I've liked about UBW, and for everyone, is that like. People aren't kind of afraid to go, "Oh, well, what if I did this or something?" And like you could, it's not like that. "Oh, I should be the champion" kind of thing. It's like, "Oh, well, what if in the match I do this?" Or like I really like to know who I'm facing, on the basis that if I think about my matches in kind of moments. So if I'm like with the Crowley match, for example, I said in the TLC as well, I was like, at some point. We need to do a bit where you're trying to apologize to me and you're like, "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry," for absolutely nothing, and then it gives me a low blow. And it was like, and I like to work out the matches and things like that, and then often I will say, "Paul, oh, I've had this idea where I'm going to do this," and then he'll work out how I can do that in like a logical context with something. So he's still the driving creative force, but I'll go, "Oh, I've had this idea," and then he'll go, "Well, what if we do it this way?" Or "That's a terrible idea. What are you thinking?" But it's nice to be able to have the creativity to do some bits and pieces, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. But and like I say, The Floor is Lava. Is it a complete knockoff of the Royal Rumble, or is it has a twist? Tell us about the rules of The Floor is Lava.
So The Floor is Lava. Yeah, that was my innovation. That was a meme originally. That I'd just literally gone, "Oh, the Royal Rumble's basically The Floor is Lava." So I'd just done The Floor is Lava in the Royal Rumble font and made it my wallpaper for a while on Wrestling Memes, and it got a really good response. And I said to Paul, I was like, "What if we did a Rumble for called The Floor?" And this was for the first WrestleMania. I was like, "Well, what if we made the main event a Rumble and called it The Floor is Lava?" And this twist, I say twist, being that we put lava around, really badly made with paper lava, around the ringside. And rather than it being over the top rope, as soon as you rather than being over the top rope, as soon as you touch the lava, you're burned to a crisp and die. So some people get thrown out and sell like they're on fire. Others completely no sell it. We often try and put people somewhere outside of the ring, so they have to do like with The Floor is Lava, like climb over chairs and stuff to get back in.
I love that.
Yeah, the idea, the only difference between the Floor is Lava really and a Rumble is that we've got paper lava down, and if you like touch your finger on the lava, you're eliminated. As soon as you touch the lava, you're eliminated.
But it adds this whole new kind of slightly comedic element to it, doesn't it? And it just means it kind of adds a match within a match sort of thing.
And you know, it's become a huge match because it's the Rumble equivalent of it sends you to the main event of WrestleMania because it's a meme match, obviously. But it's very fun to make the videos for it, because I'll always be like, okay, how can I, like the first one was like a dramatic music about people like saying how their skin was burned off and stuff, and there was fire everywhere, and then it cut to the Alpha Wolves being like, "It's just paper. I don't know what everyone's on about," and having a tantrum. And then I did another one where I was using footage from the film Volcano in line with people like being burned to a crisp on the floor. And it's a silly match that's become very popular in its 3 iterations, I think, so far. And awesome. And it's always that's one where that match will always now. It's got its own unique thing and sets it, because in January everyone's going to have a Rumble, but who else is going to have a Floor is Lava?
There you go. There you go. And the UBW one is the one to watch for sure by the sounds of it. But I want to talk to you about your wrestling character then, because you've told me that you are very much a character wrestler. Like I say, you got all the big power spots and big power moves, and you know what you're doing in the ring. But you are more of a character wrestler, aren't you? So the majority of your career, I think you've been more well known as a babyface, especially in UBW. And then recently, I think you have turned heel. You were heel in the latest set of tapings for UBW and Wrestle Carnival, of course. But because you're a character wrestler, you can adapt between a babyface and then into a heel and transition very easily, very well, and very effectively, can't you?
Yeah, well, like, so the difference between my face self and my heel self, my face self is really me having fun. Like, it is basically me, and I'm like, hey, let's do this, and then I have fun. I get taken down, and then I usually get made angry, and that's when I start fighting back and pulling out the power moves or whatever. When it comes to the heel version, it's something that I literally have. I think I did one heel match in 3 years, and that was like a random wrestling promotion where they were like, "You're heel, by the way." I was like, "What? Oh God!" And I was very nervous about it, and it went fine, but it was in a village hall and 50 people saw it, so I was like, "Okay, cool." The first time I really did heel was at UBW, where it was the UBW comeback show, and I turned on Smashing Mike, and the heel version of myself is basically, as I mentioned earlier, it's what the wrestlers who don't know me think I am, is how I've based that character. So he thinks he deserves respect. He's taking shortcuts. He still thinks he's beloved by all the fans. So it's very much like a kind of a Bo Dallas meets the Miz, I guess is the best way to put it. And I'm still, fleshing that character out at the moment, because I've literally done 2 matches with the new heel character. But I'm really looking forward to doing more of that and working from that side of it. I got to, at the weekend, wrestle Jack Landers, and I was really, really happy with how that match came out. When I left, I had about 30 children who'd all got up from their seats and started yelling at me. So I was like, clearly something's working. While I'm yelling, "You love me, you love me." And it's all a very new thing, but I'm very much enjoying getting to do the other side of it now. Yeah. So, and now instead of kind of playing me, I'm playing a character. Or I'm playing a parody of myself, I guess. But as a result, I'm getting to be a bit more like, oh, I can yell at people, and I can do this, and I can do that. So it's fun to do something different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got a glimpse of that heel character, of course, at Wrestle Carnival. We had a backstage promo, I think post-match and a pre-match promo from yourself, if I'm not mistaken, about how you're going to make the Carnival and all of its wrestlers relevant. So that heel persona was definitely coming through when I saw you backstage at Wrestle Carnival. But we've got our first listener question or viewer question. It's actually from Jay White, who runs Immortal Wrestling. He says, you're a big man, and what other big men would you like to face on the UK indie scene?
Oh, that's a really good question. I really, really would like a match with Big T, because the vast majority of people that I wrestle, I have to be, I'm always a big man. So it's kind of, if I see someone who's taller than me and I have to look up to them, I'm like, whoa. Like, it's very rare I see people taller than me, and Big T's like a great guy anyway, but I think the dynamic of me wrestling him would be a really fun one that I would really enjoy. Another one would be Alexander Hyde, who again is a really, really good big man. I'm just trying to think who's. You see, this is the other thing about Brits, is there aren't a huge amount of big men. I've wrestled the UK Pitbulls, which I enjoyed. That was with Dave and the Bulk, and the Bulk is he's a very large man, we'll put it that way. And that was again quite a fun dynamic of being the guy who gets bumped around rather than the guy who's doing the bumping.
I could see you against Damien, Brett Meadows.
Oh yeah, that'd be a good match. What? I would love to wrestle Damien. I've been on quite a few shows with him, but never been across the ring from him. So that's a good one. And then of course there's my future rival who I absolutely must wrestle one day, which is Blue Kane. So I have to beat him.
There you go. Absolutely. Thank you for the question there, Jay. But final question from me. You look at everything you've done and achieved over the last 11 years with the Booker T page through to wrestling memes, through to your training and your 4 years in the wrestling business. But what was probably the most or some of the most proudest moments you can look back on and kind of pinch yourself moments where you think, yeah, that was really pretty cool?
So there've been a few. One of the one of the strangest ones was when I met Jeff Jarrett, and he then I did a training seminar with Jeff Jarrett. I was like, "Oh, I do this thing called wrestling memes." He's like, "Oh, I follow you." I was like, "Oh shit, you do?" And I was like, "Oh, that's great." And he did this training thing with me. And then the next day, I was in Manchester for Brit Rest Media Con, and I would just be standing there talking to someone, and then suddenly from behind me, I'd just hear someone every few minutes just go, "Memes!" And it was just Jeff Jarrett winding me up. And I was like, this is a really strange situation. Why is Jeff Jarrett winding me up? So that was one. In terms of in the ring, I got to do a little bit in the Floor is Lava with someone who's a good friend who's just signed for Impact Wrestling this week, in fact, which is Speedball Mike Bailey. And I really, really enjoyed that. Being able to debut for IPW, because that was one of the ones where I'd seen it before I'd been a wrestler. That was really cool. In fact, while I was in IPW, I got to wrestle Johnny Storm again. I was like,
Nice.
"You're on the wrestling channel, and now I'm wrestling you." And I was doing a six-way match with him for that, but I'd really love to do a one-on-one with him one day. And you know, Wrestle Carnival, being able to debut for Wrestle Carnival, I was like, I came out, I was like, this feels very cool. This feels very good. Like that was a really good thing for me, and I'm really hoping I can do more there. I'm just trying to think if there's any others that have. I mean, doing the stuff with Crowley always stood out, but and it's great to see him, you know, where he is now compared to where he was when he started. Like he's always been the showman, but watching him get the credits that he deserves, and he's doing great stuff with Clementine at the moment.
100%.
And I'm hoping to do more with both of them, in fact, in the future.
Well, now that you two are both bona fide heels, especially with your recent heel turn, could we see a reformation of show memes, but the heel version, the nasty
Well, obviously,
version?
VDSM, I'm sure, is his priority, but
Well, yeah.
I have said to him I would love to do at least one day do heel show memes, because we could do such a weird dynamic with it. I think it would be quite fun. And I'd really, really like to do the other way around, of me as the bad guy and him as the good guy, because we've never done that before.
Yeah, that would be a great
So
concept.
I'd really like to do that. Yeah.
Fantastic. But memes, as we draw to the end of this 214th episode of Wrestling with Johners, if you've got any socials, we know you've got socials. That's what we've been talking about. But if people want to kind of reach out to you, find out more about you, wrestling memes, your wrestling career, and just generally say hi, where can they do so?
So for the more memey side of it, facebook.com/wrestling memes. If you want to see more wrestling-y stuff, if you go to my Instagram page, that's @brothermemo, MEMO. And then on Twitter, for a mix of the two, it's @wrestling_memes. And if you combine all those, it's about 300,000 people. So
there we go. Absolutely. But memes, has been a pleasure. It's been a blast speaking to you for 53 minutes. Time is absolutely flown. But I hope you've enjoyed being on the podcast, and I can't wait to see you at the show sometime soon.
Yeah, it's been great, and I look forward to appearing everywhere when promoters book me who are watching.
There we go. Book memes now, you've been told. Anyway, thank you very much to everybody that's watched and listened, and we'll catch up with you all again soon.